Hey everyone, today's drop features Duncan, head of product from Turtle, a distribution protocol that connects liquidity providers and protocols through curated on-chain reward campaigns. Welcome, Duncan.
Thanks, Edward. Great to meet you, man.
Thanks so much. I can't actually believe I have to describe what Turtle is, considering you guys have literally climbed Everest over the last 18 months.
I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to get stuck in. You've got some crazy numbers as well. You've hit, I think, 300 million per month average TVL, roughly 5.6 billion in lifetime TVL. That's across boosted deals, vaults, campaigns, and if I'm not mistaken, over 400,000 users.
That's right. Yeah, no, that is right. And happy to dig into all those numbers through our conversation. But it's been a wild ride. I give it a ton of credit to our founder, Essie. He's just an absolute animal when it comes to provisioning liquidity.
I was talking to one of your advisors actually about 9 months ago, and you were called Turtle Club back then. Yeah, he was saying, yeah, dude, you got to get involved. Check this out. These guys are going crazy. And then actually I met one of your investors as well. I think back in May, June of this year. Yeah, I started seeing Turtle everywhere. And then obviously at Portals, we started using Turtle. We supported your positions. And yeah, just see Turtle everywhere now. So yeah, can't wait to get stuck in. On that note, let me do that. So we'll start off with talking first, broadly about Turtle, but you describe it as the sort of first distribution protocol in Web3 rather than another yield aggregator or vault system. What does that mean in practice? And how does Turtle actually monetize user activity like liquidity provision or swaps?
Absolutely. So what we mean by distribution protocol is rather than just aggregating what deals exist on the market, one thing that we found was a big hole and problem that many founders had as they were looking for liquidity for new protocols or even old protocols that have liquidity programs and but they didn't have or had a smart contract system protocol up, but they didn't have the right incentive structure available and they didn't really know the cost of liquidity on the market for any base asset. And so one of the key parts of our offerings and the key flywheel that we have is curating and understanding the cost of liquidity at any given point for liquidity providers to reasonably deploy like significant amounts of liquidity. And so whenever we talk to a protocol, it's really about curating the deal flow. So we provide a above market rate for still relatively risk averse or risk mitigated opportunities to our LP base. And we are able to talk to these protocols to understand their requirements for the amount of liquidity they're looking to incentivize over time. And we can help advise them on what kind of incentive program they need to sponsor via a boosted either points or token incentives in order to attract that amount of liquidity to reach their goals.
It's really interesting because you've invented this space almost, in my opinion. I hadn't really seen it before, or at least let's say you've created it at scale and it's scaling rapidly. I actually spoke to someone who's the co-founder of quite a serious DeFi protocol this week, and he actually moved himself to Hong Kong, literally to follow that wave of liquidity, which sort of moved there, these liquidity providers, and just to be face to face and go out there and meet people. And he's building this sort of personal brand, like a sort of personal turtle. But look, quick digress, but back to Turtle. So Duncan, perhaps you can explain why this distributor versus aggregator distinction is important and what gap in the DeFi market Turtle fills that others don't.
Absolutely. And your point is correct. It really is a new type of protocol. What we've done had existed, but sort of behind closed doors. So if you're a large liquidity provider and you could tell a protocol that I will give you $100 million of liquidity, they were typically willing to negotiate. It just wasn't publicly available to anyone. And so what we're doing is democratizing this public access to better than market rate opportunities. It's another way to think about Turtle, and this has been coined by a few different investors of ours, but I think it's probably the most concise, is we're really a crypto investment bank where we are curating new types of financial products for DeFi protocols to attract the liquidity that they need in order for their protocol to function. While the way that we're able to do that is we've really aggregated one of the largest, if not the largest liquidity networks in crypto. And And we've democratized this access to all of the deals, and people want to work with us because we have that network. And so we're able to offer them better than market rate opportunities. I can also address the smart contract risk point that you mentioned.
Please do touch on the smart contract subject, because from what I understand, you focus your efforts on offering high reward, low risk opportunities. When you say you don't use smart contracts, you actually mean you don't want to compound counterparty risk for your user base. Additionally, the deposits are all self-custody, so Turtle doesn't actively manage user funds, right? Could you
That's correct.
explain a bit how that works technically and how it enables users to earn yield or rewards safely while maintaining self-custody?
Absolutely. And I'll also take us back to sort of how Turtle started. So in the beginning, Essie was able to make some of these deals even without an interface. He had a large liquidity network. Essie's our co-founder or the founder of the protocol. And he had a large liquidity network of friends, and he was able to say to EtherFi, for instance, this was one of the largest first deals that Turtle was able to execute on. But he essentially negotiated a 25% points boost. That points boost, those extra rewards were tracked via the EtherFi points API. So they gave us access to their API, which are tracking points. Any of our whitelisted users were earning 25% on that. And that boost actually was given to the Turtle protocol. And so the initial product that we used to bootstrap the entire ecosystem and in the product was this boost product. That boost product earned us about $7 million in revenue in the first 18 months of existence. And so it was a really simple but very effective way for us to make partnerships with these protocols. Because as a partner, we were our goal too was we didn't want to dump on good partners. So if they were satisfying the agreements, we would agree not to sell those tokens. So it wouldn't add sell pressure to their token economy. And they were happy to give us extra points because we were really able to provision a ton of liquidity to increase the success of their initial, founding of the protocol and starter. Since then, now that we've proven ourselves, we're actually moving into another fee structure where we are taking some basis points on liquidity provided. We also are entering into revenue agreements with certain protocols to really develop long-term alignment in how we're able to push deals forward for the protocols we work with, and then also give these boosted rewards to our liquidity base.
So you negotiate these fantastic deals, and people are getting these boosted rewards are going up to what, 50%, you say?
For some of them, yes, we did negotiate some 50% rewards, and I will say too, because of the nature of the early start of the protocol, a lot of these were sort of handshake deals. Some of them came through fully, and then some of them either never launched TGE or maybe didn't satisfy their total reward allocation that they had initially agreed to, because we didn't really have those legal teeth to sort of check or ensure that they were bound to the agreement, which is fine. I think we've really been able in that pilot stage prove that we're very good at allocating liquidity, and now we're able to talk to protocols who are very willing to pay either upfront or just in a more structured agreement that we will pay for the liquidity you provide.
I mean, it's an amazing model. It's the biggest pain point, right, for a protocol. So you have the solution right there. I would imagine that there's not too much negotiation on the fee. Maybe there is, I don't know. But for me, everything's worth the problem it solves, right? So
I love it. Yeah.
there you go. But
It's
look,
an unknown problem for many people. A lot of these
exactly.
technical founders, they're really clever on the economics and the smart contract side, but understanding the liquidity market is a very niche knowledge base and niche industry.
Very. And on the user numbers, right? So over 400,000 wallets since the MVP launch, as I mentioned earlier. What do you think actually drove that level of adoption? Would you say it was down to your reward mechanisms or perhaps these boosted deals?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends a few things, right? And we've seen a lot of user growth depending on the partnerships that we run, the different campaigns, many airdrop farmers. So I'd say even though, and we have grown a ton, and it's been very rewarding to see the number of wallets, continue to tick up. But even with that, I would say about, you know, the top 30 of the user base is really the ones that are pushing 90% of the liquidity. So we have many wallets that, are also sort of airdrop farming. We have a new leaderboard product that we also drafted up and created looking at the success of Kaido and Cookie and these sort of social scoring mechanisms. So we've created a leaderboard that combines both social score with a liquidity deployment. So it's really focused more on the latter, where we want to incentivize people to really provide a ton of value on the liquidity side, but you also get small boosts if you are also promoting the protocol in a social way. So it's been a variety of both steady growth, but also these larger partnerships that bring on a bunch of airdrop farmers and big sleuths. That's also a component and part of how the 400,000 wallets plus have signed up to Turtle.
That's cool. Yeah, the Kaito cookie model is quite interesting. And yeah, if you can nail that, or say improve on that, because I still think there's huge room for improvement in that model. I'm not bashing it, I'm just saying it's fantastic, but there's a long way to go. That would be interesting to see. And you guys are proper innovators, so I'd love to see how you go with that. And I was on your leaderboard today. In fact, I've been on it for the last few weeks. I knew we were doing this podcast, so I've actually been playing around with your platform a lot.
Excellent.
So let's talk vaults. Okay, vaults and campaigns.
Uh-huh.
How do these products differ? And what kind of opportunities are they designed to unlock for liquidity providers and protocols?
Perfect. So as I mentioned previously, we started with this points boost programs, and that's how we probably moved the first one and a half or $2 billion in provisioned liquidity with the points programs, and that was largely with like LRT protocols as well as early protocols that were doing lending or other chains, etc. And then our first campaign or vaults product came around when we talked to TAC. TAC is a EVM execution layer on top of TON, and they were launching their own blockchain. And so we talked to them about 2 months prior to launch and set up an ecosystem of vaults that satisfied their sort of distribution of assets that they wanted to see on the blockchain. And so for that, it was a much more complex campaign, because for some of these, it was just, deposit ETH into EtherFi and hold EtherFi. As the EtherFi points accrue, you're getting a boost on that. For this, we had a larger number of options for what types of assets you can deposit, what reward structures are available for each vault. And we were able to develop a larger ecosystem, a DeFi ecosystem for that blockchain, and bring in the right partners that were able to satisfy everything you need, lending, borrowing, and sort of trading on a specific blockchain. And so the vaults product is the first time that we actually introduced some amount of smart contracts into our ecosystem. So now the whole, we don't use any smart contracts I'm trying to get away from that nomenclature at this point, that value prop. But at the same time, all the vaults that we are working with vault infrastructure providers like Veda, Lagoon, Concrete, and a variety of others. They're all using relatively standard and highly audited smart contracts. So we do our best to ensure that we are doing diligence prior to offering any of these deals to our user base. And so the vaults product really came around in May of this year, and that has been a really strong innovation. And that's really probably, as we continue moving forward, that will be core to the real product and revenue and liquidity provisioning strategy that we offer to our clients.
Nice. And you've got a good roadmap ahead now for that?
Super. Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on, and there's so many ways to develop this roadmap, and so many ways to optimize and provide better services for our clients, as well as provide better liquidity management systems for our LPs. But we do have a strong roadmap moving forward. And I hope, our biggest goal is ultimately to institutionalize all of this. So we want to provide the highest quality due diligence, information, really for LPs to understand exactly what they're getting into before they deposit, really high quality information on the client side to understand how much they're owed and just see the tracking in real time. And so all of that data manipulation and data aggregation, indexing, etc., is kind of a really big piece of what we're crystallizing right now on the product side.
I would imagine your priorities, like when you're having your product meetings, your priority setting is quite a headache, because you're at this kind of center of the universe right now in DeFi, and where you sit and the demand you get from sort of both sides. Now, I'd imagine that with the resources you have, you probably wish you had more all the time, that you could go in all these different directions. So yeah, I don't know what those meetings are like, but I'm pretty sure choosing your priorities are probably a bit of a headache, because you've got
It
so many
definitely
options.
can be. Yeah, it definitely can be. It's really about, seeing the forest through the trees kind of thing. They're really able to zoom out and define our critical path of development. And I think we're on an offsite in Buenos Aires right now, both for Dev Connect, but also really our dev team is spending a ton of time together. And I feel really strong about our dev team in particular. We've really hired the right people, and we're cooking in the back end a lot that I'm excited to see ship in the next few months and really in 2026.
Let's talk a little bit about the Turtle Earn widget and your SDK, which makes it possible for anyone to integrate Turtle into their own app or front end. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Definitely. So the core of Turtle is to list high quality and cure high quality deal flow, attract LPs and provision liquidity for that deal flow. And then the Earn widget comes in, where we're able to not only be the distributor for this deal flow, but also allow for other websites, teams, companies, etc., distribute the deal flow on our behalf and earn rewards or earn revenue that we would normally take on this distribution. And so it really, at the end of the day, the Earn widget will ultimately, like, if we do our job well, we will be earning or provisioning more liquidity from the Earn widget from distribution providers than we will ourselves as Turtle. I think we're probably months or plus, like many months from that moment. But at the moment, you are able to come into Turtle, use our SDK to integrate either natively the Earn widget, or we also have a custom widget available to just copy a link and post it into your front end. And anyone who comes in, if you advertise the opportunities, they come in, they can select the link, deposit into that front end, and then that value will be attributed to the distribution provider of the widget that has been advertising it. So essentially, it's kind of like a liquidity ad network ultimately at the end of the day.
Nice. And I guess that's a huge part of your growth model as well. Helps you scale liquidity across the whole landscape. I'm going to move on again. Sorry, I keep pushing this on, but
Let's do it.
trying to
Yeah,
keep it snappy.
I'm keen.
Snapping turtle, pun unintended. But look, let's shift to the turtle token and governance. I was following your TGE actually a while ago. Well, not really a while ago. I think it was within the last month. I wasn't actually interacting with the app that much at the time. I should have been, because I could have earned myself some good rewards. But could you let us know about your staking model and how it empowers users to influence the protocol direction, and what kind of proposals the community can vote on in the future?
Absolutely. And so I'd say too that the governance side, we're still standing up the specific sort of topics of delegation, et cetera. But we have a system set up so that you can stake your turtle, and then with your S turtle, you can delegate that stake to a delegate of your choosing. The way that we plan to implement governance in the future is, it's again still being crystallized, but we're excited to allow for our user base to give input and help us shape the direction of Turtle as we prioritize incentive distributions, new features, and protocol advancements as is needed.
Cool. Thank you. And what's next for Turtle? You've positioned yourself as a protocol that sits between liquidity, distribution, and data. Where do you see Turtle evolving? Is it more into a liquidity network, a yield marketplace, or something entirely new? Institutionalization, perhaps?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, there's two, now that we have the token, that's a whole nother product direction. And way we can kind of reinforce everything that happens on the Turtle network. Like today, in the leaderboard, if you stake Turtle, you'll get a boost on the provisioned liquidity. And there's a ratio. If you stake as much value as you've provisioned, then you get a full 3x boost on the liquidity leaderboard. And then it scales down from there all the way to 0. If you stake nothing, then you get nothing. But if you stake a little, there'll be a small, linear boost applied to your rewards on the leaderboard points. So that's only one part of the system, though. It's really just to kind of reinforce and incentivize and somewhat gamify the system of liquidity provisioning. The core and the critical path that I mentioned before is really focused on making this entire experience more institutionalized, both for our LPs, for our clients, for the protocol clients, and the distributors who are coming in and distributing these deals on top. And so we currently have both the web app, which is a consumer application, but we also have a dashboard, which is a BD app that is helping us manage our backend, but also allow for distributors to come in and integrate and distribute or customize their widgets in the distribution process. And for our partner protocols, they can come in, create a organization, update their organization details, eventually submit deal details, develop an incentive pipeline, etc. And so ultimately that will be how we are able to scale and increase the speed at which we're able to provide high quality deal flow for our user base.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Great way to end. Good round off. Before we end, I'm going to end with a question that every guest receives. Okay,
Excellent.
It's a little game. Today, the total TVL of DeFi, as per DeFi Llama, is $123 billion. What's your prediction for this number at midnight on the 31st of December, 2025?
Amazing. That's a great question. And of course, I'm an optimist, so we'll see how the market's going, though. I think the next wave of all of this protocol stuff, I think I find it hard to find new, proper innovation in the ecosystem. People have been innovating on this stuff for a long time, but all of the stablecoin jazz and bringing more institutional industry into the ecosystem, that's really what will push the ball and move the needle, I think, in this next phase of development for the ecosystem.
So what's your number? It's $123 billion today. What do you predict? It's just a little game.
So let's call it $135 billion.
Gotcha. $135 billion.
Check
You've
me.
made it into the game.
Love it. I hope I win.
All right, Duncan, look, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. You're seriously busy. Enjoy your offsite with the team. It's amazing what you guys are doing. Please keep us posted with all your developments. I can't wait to see how Turtle develops.
Excellent. Thanks, Ed. I really appreciate you having me on the show.